Hi. So now I would like to discuss a different topic, slightly different topic, which is the relationship between traditional and modern institutions. So how this tradition and modern institution interact and affecting the development outcome. So the modern institution is like the current government, the current governmental system, which is the local district government, provincial government, and the way that this local leader is elected, which is the direct election. So that is the local modern institution, while the local traditional institution is the one that I have been mentioning, the system that related to feudalism, the system related to land ownership, religion, and so on, in which dividing the society into several classes. Yeah? While the modern institution, yes, we do have leaders and so on, but the election of the leaders through direct election, so everybody can actually become leaders in this modern institution. And we would like right now to see how this modern and social institution interact and affecting our development outcome. So in the first case study, for a long time, since 1930s, the leaders of local government has always been from the high class. Only after 1965, then we start seeing people from the low class, people becoming the leaders. And the proportion of these leaders from the low class people actually increasing recently after the direct election in 2004. So we, in this analysis, we create a new indicator, an indicator which is measure the power of the high class system. So what we look at is in each individual, they were 7 years old, 30 years before, how many percent of leaders in the area where that person born is actually coming from the high class. If this indicator is 1, meaning that all leaders 30 years before and up until that person is 7 years old are all coming from the high class. If the indicator is lower than 1, that means that up until this person 7 years old and before as much as 30 years, some of the leader coming from the low class. Yeah? So we would like to interact this with classes and development outcome. The same situation, the same indicator we use in our second case studies. And you can see in this graph, it's just relatively recent that some of the low class people becoming leaders in this area. Now this graph showing in the bottom is the level of high class power. So remember that if it is 1, that means that all leaders that is experienced by a person at 7 years old and before, up until 30 years, is all high class. Yeah? And so we would like to see the correlation between this power, power of the high class, to the development outcome of that person. Yeah? And on the y-axis is the educational attainment or year of schooling. You see that this graph showing that the graph is steep up. Yeah? And so that what does that mean is that for each person, when the person is 7 years old and the power of the high class is actually weakened, the probability of that person having a higher education increasing. Yeah. So in an area in which the high class people always control, the average level of education is lower than when the proportion of the high class was a leader is lower. Yeah? So both, and there are two graphs. One graph is the solid line is the performance of the high class. So even for the high class, when there are people from the lower class becoming the head of the local government, their performance is better. They could attain a higher level of education in average. Yeah. So for example, in this graph shows that if only 70% of the local leaders are coming from a high class, the high class people could attain 12 years of education. Yeah. And if you look at the dot line shows the performance of the low class people. And you can see as well when all leaders are coming from the high class, therefore their school attainment is only 6 in average, while only 70% of the high class is becoming the local leader. He could actually attain a year of schooling up until 11 years. Yeah. Now, comparing this dot line and solid line will show us the effect of power of the high class on the performance of the low class people and on the high class people.